This is Karen O'Brien, and today we're going to do a continuation of last week's webinar, which was QGIS and LiDAR tools using LAStools. So this is already on my YouTube channel. It's ready to go from the last webinar. And in addition to that, so the last webinar, we kind of went over how to use QGIS and how to use LAStools GUI to build all these LAS files. And then today we're going to go over how to use these batch processors to do it. Oops, you don't actually need that one. So I have uploaded all these these little batch codes. They're super simple to make into this LAS folder, and the 4 LAS files that we're working with, and of course the state plane folder that we're going to do the work on, and the tiles that you'll need that go along with the data, the 2 project domains, one for UTM, one for US, so you can make your own Flow2D projects, and some additional script files. So these are the QGIS script files for running these tools: LAS to text, blast to DEM, LASView, and import text, remove elevation layer. So these 2 are also, we'll see these today. So these are all available for you to download and try. Okay, so all you'll have to do is, once you get them and put them on your computer wherever you want, is load them up and make sure that your paths are adjusted so that they reflect the location of the data on your computer. So let's start with, let's just go over a quick recap. We went over all of these LAStools last time, checking LAStools from single files and from folders, and just running through some of these tools that were useful for Flow2D, which is basically, there's only like a handful of them that I use. And we're gonna go over these today, but we're gonna, so basically what you do is you can run through one of these processors. Let me just set one up real quick. So let's just do LAS to LAS, and you can do LAS to LAS with from a project folder, or LAS to LAS from a single file. And either way, if you set this up, it's going to give you the code to do the work. So input directory is the location where the source LAS files are. The wildcard is LAS because they're not zipped. They just didn't come zipped, so that's why they're not. The source projection is UTM. I'm just going to delete that. I don't want that. The zone is 15 north, and target projection is state plane. And again, I'll just delete that. And oops, sorry, don't need this one. And the target code is Iowa North. And let's see, output appendix. We can call that _SP. And then the output format is LAS. And then, I mean, this doesn't really matter because I think it's going to ignore it anyway. And the additional command line parameters, let's just ignore that. No, let's do this. Maybe like elevation feet, target, let's see, elevation meters, elevation feet, target. Sorry, that's supposed to be target elevation. Target elevation is feet. And then, and I think it's just meter, not meters. And then the source is meter, and the target is meter. So that's the units of the 2 stage sources. Now, and then you just choose an output directory. So save to a directory, and yep, we want it to go there. And then I'm gonna click run, and it's gonna run it, but really what I want from this is this command right here. And I'm gonna copy that command, and I'm going to show it to you. And so basically the cool thing about QGIS is it's going to give you these commands that you can then just, you don't have to use QGIS to do this. It kind of gets in the way, and it can be a pain, and you don't necessarily want to open QGIS to do this, but it's kind of helpful if you need to learn how to set these up. So this is how I taught myself to set these up, was just by typing these commands in here, and then I put those commands into their respective BAT files so that you can run them with the command prompt. So we have a LAS to LAS, LAS to text, LAS to info, and then I believe there's a BLAST to DEM in here that will give us some data that's not super useful, but we can still try it anyway. So, and I might have to tinker around with this one to get the correction, to get the information in here correctly, but it should work. Okay, so now let's just go over this real quick. So I just basically just copied that stuff from QGIS and paste it right in here. And what you get is, first off, it's going to point to the command that we want to call. And it's going to set it up to run on the 64-bit CPU, or the 64-bit engine, not the regular engine. The input files are, it's going to just point to the folder and do a wildcard with the .las, because that's all that's in there. And you can see that. You can see that right from here. That's all we have in there. And so you test this on a small, tiny bit of code, you know, because it's not going to take as long. And then when you're ready, you run it on your major files. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, the reason we have to run LAS to LAS is because we have to convert it from UTM to state plane. And so here's the commands for that. The source is UTM 15 north, meter, elevation meter, and the target is state plane 86, NAD 83, Iowa north, and the target is feet, and the elevation is feet. The output directory is here. It's a state plane folder. We want this to be the output file type, and we want this to be the renaming variable. Okay, so if we come here to the folder, we can get this a couple of different ways. So let me just open these guys up real quick. So here's the state plane. As you can see, it's empty because I deleted the files that I just made. And let me just make this a little bit smaller so we can kind of follow along with this better. So first off, we're going to start like this. We're going to just run it, and it's going to show you what it's doing right now. But as soon as that is complete, it turns off. So maybe you can put in here something like a command to keep that open, like maybe a pause or something, but I haven't been able to make it work. So I'm just going to ignore that part of it, and instead I'm going to run it from the command prompt, and that'll give you a bit more detail. So we'll start by opening up a command prompt. This is very simple, just CMD. And then you can either click it and it'll open regular, or you can, which if you're not an administrator, you can do that. Or if you're an administrator, you can right click it and run as admin. And let's see, CLS will clear the screen. And then we need to make sure we're in the correct directory, because these tools, if I just tried to call this from, and I was just in the generic directory, it would be wrong. So changing a directory, simple CD space, change directory space, and then you grab the directory from anywhere, put your cursor back in here, open the quotation marks, right click, close the quotation marks, enter. Okay, so let me do that again so you can see it actually change. So open quotation marks, that's control, not shift. And then I'll just back this off to here, close quotation marks, come on, and enter. And you can see that now it's in this directory. So now if I did CD space, and then I can just do backslash LAS, enter, nope, CD space LAS, enter, and it'll change me back to that directory. So it's really easy to get yourself into the correct directory with the command prompt, and then you're ready to go. So the files we want to run are in the LAS folder. That's why I changed my directory there. And so if I call the file from here, LAS to LAS, oh, you know what, let me delete these guys. They'll just overwrite them, so you don't have to delete them. So it'll just force overwrite them, so that's good. And then BAT, enter, and what it'll do is it will create all this information. Now, if you want a little bit more data, a little bit more detail on what it's doing, you can put into your commands a dash verbose. So I remember in the last video, I didn't know what verbose was used for, and it just gives you a bit more output. So then we come back here. Let's just minimize this. And we run that again. So up arrow will take you back to the last command and then enter. And you can see here that you're getting a little bit more information. And it'll tell you like if you have any errors or anything. So that's why it's important to keep this window open so you can see your errors. And these are basically ready to go. So, but you do want to kind of check them because like I've done this several times and they haven't converted correctly. So what I want to do is I want to run a different program. I want to use the LASinfo program. Let's grab that real quick. So the LASinfo is very simple. You got your same command at the beginning to just set up the path to the tool, and then just the input folder. And I just did, you can just do one of them or you can do all of them. It really doesn't matter, but I just kept all of them because why not? Same thing, you come down here. Now this one you really want to run in the command prompt because you really want all that data. So let's check this out. Let's go lasinfo.bat. And then I'll just go back to the top because I don't really know where they start. So it's easier just to go to the top. And here's the command, las, hang on a second. This must be the las to las. It's got to be in here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. lasinfo.bat. And so it gives you the location of where it just gives you basically the command and where it's running the command at. Then you get, okay, hold on a second, version. That's the version of the LAS file would be my guess. And the fact that it was run by LAStools and the maker of LAStools here, the LAStools version, so that's important. And this is the new max-min coordinate system. And as you can see, it's clearly, the elevation is now clearly in feet, and these are now clearly in state plane, not UTM. So we know we did a good job. We know the data is good. So so again, we'll just CLS to clear the screen. And the next thing to do is to run the next program, which will convert LAS to text using, okay, so LAS to text is just going to convert this to ASCII data. So we have a couple of things we want to do. So CPU 64 verbose, so we can kind of see what it's up to. Well, the cool thing about this one is going to tell you like whether or not they're done. This one is the input files, but if you'll note, they change the path changed to the state plane folder. We're going to parse it, and we only want XYZ. We don't want anything other than XYZ because this is flow 2D. We just want to ignore everything else. And keep the class 2 because we want to keep the LiDAR data. We don't care so much about the trees and the noise, and you will learn about that in the previous video. And then, of course, reduce our window to something more reasonable. So this is really super simple. Let's go ahead and run it. So it's las2txt.bat and enter, and it's starting, and it's telling you that these files took this long to generate. So the cool thing about running this in verbose is then you now know how far along you are, and you know, so if you're doing this to 50 files or you have way more points in your files, is going to take longer. And so this will give you an idea of where you're at. All right, now let's take a quick look at what we created. And you can see here that we now have a text file for each of those. And if you go to open it up, you'll see that it's XYZ, super duper simple. You could, I suppose, sort this and get rid of anything that, you know, looked weird, but I think it's basically already done by the command, by this command to take out the class, anything but class 2, and to keep it in this boundary. So now if I want to check this data just to make sure it's in the right spot, I can come here to this is my LiDAR project in feet. And I made these two scripts. One will import the text and draw the points onto the map. So this is like this exact same added delimited text, except you don't have to fill this out every single time. So instead, I made this super easy script, and I don't think you actually need these two. You only need the OS, and the elevation file is a little bit different because it has some delimiters in it. So it's not like your standard file path. It's slightly different. So you're going to set up your file. The file path, everything is forward slashes, not backslashes. The name of the file that you want to export, I can't remember what the question mark does. Probably something to do with the regular expression code. It's not super important. So the delimiters are the X field, the Y field, whoops, and that's it. And then this is important. So these again, this is %, S, and ampersand are probably regular expression codes. And again, I don't know what they do. I'm not too big on regular expression code and what they do, but it's pretty simple. It might just be that there's a space right there, or that the space is a delimiter. That might just be what it is. Then you get your delimiter inside here, which is a space. And then instead of like having to make this, like, okay, you saw right away that that data wasn't, didn't have field names. So instead we just said field 1 and field 2 are X and Y. And you can see that right here, field 1 and field 2. So that's super easy to set up. And again, like if I said, if you wanted to use this, just download it, change your file path, and then it's going to take and load, hang on a second, an elevation layer using this QGIS vector layer. The layer itself, the layer data comes from this elevation, from this file. The name of the layer is elevation, and the delimiter is delimited text, or the type of file is delimited text. And then then you just check if the layer is valid. So if there's nothing in it, it'll print this layer is not valid. And then this will be add the layer to the map. Now, and then in addition to that, you could like color it and do anything else you want to do in here. So it's pretty fun little script. So all I need to do is make sure that this file name is correct. So let me just grab that real quick. And you can see here that it is _sp.txt. And so if I take this and I just run it, then you can see that it added my text, my elevation data, and you can see that it's good. It's not, there's just enough data. So I just wanted to check that out. So now I can actually just remove that layer. So if I click run on this Python script, it'll just take it out and just get rid of that layer. And the cool thing is that it's removing the layer by the name of the layer, not the ID of the layer. So that's kind of cool. So this was a little bit tricky to figure out how to do it by name instead of by ID. And that's important. Why? Because every time you open a project, like a new project, the layer IDs on every project change. They're unique. So if you try to use this script, if you reloaded a new project and you try to use this script on it, it wouldn't work because it would go by the layer ID, not the layer name. Okay, so now that we know our data is good, we can use the Flow2D elevation tool to set our LiDAR, or to convert our LiDAR data to to elevation data and assign it to the grid from the LiDAR files and multiple LiDAR files. So if we click interpolate from LiDAR, and I click don't use this, and I click OK, and then I can just grab these 4 and just click open, and in about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, that will, you saw that it read the data really quick. So it reads the data, and then it takes the points that are inside the grid and it puts them into an array, and then it puts the grid into an array, and then it starts to calculate the averaging. So it's just averaging the points inside the system. And then if there's no points in that system, it will at the end, it will interpolate from neighbors. So let's just let this do its thing while we look at the last tool. Okay, so the last thing that we have here is the blast to DEM. Now, the blast to DEM is not a free program. So just to remind you that the programs that the LAStools programs that are open source are the LASzip, LASinfo, LASindex, LAS2LAS, LASmerge, text to LAS, LAS to text, and the LASprecision. And the tools that are not free that are part of the LAStools package that you can purchase online are all of these and the 2 blast tools. Okay, so if you want to use, and I think the blast to DEM is pretty sweet and super fast. So even if you get, I mean, maybe it's comparable to ArcGIS. I don't really know what's in ArcGIS as far as LiDAR tools go, but it's really, really fast. Okay, so definitely worth to purchase this particular module. So let's take a look at it. So this is the LAStools blast to DEM. The input comes from our state plane.las, and we're going to merge them all into a single file, and we're going to keep class 2, and the step is 1, so that's a 1 meter. Actually, that probably should be 3 because that data is now in feet. Or you can put that step to anything you want. You could even put it like to the grid element size if you wanted to. And the output directory is the same file as the input directory. It's going to be a TIFF or a raster, a geotiff. And the output file is this guy right here. Notice these guys changed the direction these guys did. These guys did a direction change. And I think it's actually going to ignore this course 4 thing. I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty sure it's going to ignore it. So let's save it and come back here and see this is still going. So I'm going to pause the video until this is done because I don't want to, if those files were being used or locked or whatever, wouldn't want to mess with them. Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect. So it just finished, and as you can see, it assigned elevation from LiDAR. There are 1.7 million points inside the grid and 129,000 points outside the grid. There are 100,000 cells. Now, when I did this on the 400,000 cell model, it took about 15 minutes. So we're working on that speed up right now, but you're typically going to have 1 to 2, maybe even up to 4 million cells in your models. So this could take a while. So I recommend if you get one that's up to 4 million cells, just let it go. Just let it go, walk away from it, and come back in like an hour and it'll probably be done. So let's click OK. And if I click on the grid, you should see that I've already set the style up on this grid so you can see the elevation data. You can see there's a road right here. And then if I back that up with an image, should have one already loaded. You can see that the road is right in there. And you can see the weird little changes in the elevation due to the, I don't know what you call those guys, the berms. And so you can kind of see like how that works. All right, let's go ahead and turn that back off. I think we're basically done with this. And now let me Okay, let's see, finished with the grid. I guess I'm basically finished with QGIS. It's done. Okay, so then your next, thing would be to export it, save it, export it, and maybe make a backup of your QGIS files, and because this is now complete. Okay, so let's minimize this and let's go back here to this guy. And now that I'm no longer using those text files, I should be okay. Well, I guess it would have been okay anyway, because I wasn't using those text files anyway. So let's put in here, well, let's just do it and see what happens. So let's try last to DEMSP.bat, and we'll hit enter. Okay, and it says right now that it's unlicensed for over 5 million points. So it's going to insert some black lines. And it looks like it's complete because our command cursor popped back up. So let's take a quick look and see what it gave us. And sure enough, it gave us 3 files. So it gave us the elevation TIFF, the world file, and the KML. Let's take a quick look at each of these and see what they are showing. So back here, we will grab this guy here. Yeah, that's it. And we'll grab this guy and drag him onto our map and just wait for it. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. Hang on a sec. It might have used the wrong. Let's zoom to it and see where it is. This is definitely feet. Okay. Zoom to layer. Oh, sorry, zoom to layer. Now it's there. Oh, I know what's wrong. This is weird. Okay, yeah, I've done this before. This has happened to me several times. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure how to. Let's just try. First of all, let's try view, refresh. Okay, and let's just try to. Oh, okay. Let's try this. We'll do this. Will be. Let's see, 1200, I guess. And click apply and click OK. Nope. Okay, I know this is gonna work. I just have to remember how I got it to work last time. Let's give it a shot with any other one. Dang it. I know it's something easy, so just bear with me. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's good. No data. That's fine. And symbology, we'll go back to single band grayscale. Band 1, black to white. Let's just put this to 1200. Oh, I know what it was. It was like maybe something like that, and click apply. Ah, so close. User defined, that's fine. Color rendering. Let's try single pseudo color. Classify and clip. Let's clip that to clip outer range values. All right. Let me try. I wish I could remember how I did that. It's probably in the other video. Let me try it one more time. Well, let's try maybe the KML. Let's see what the KML does. Nope, doesn't like the KML. That's okay, that's fine. Let's try the KML on Google Earth. And just to see what it does. My guess is it's in the wrong coordinate system. All right. Wonder where it went. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we know it's good. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make it show up in QGIS. And no, it's not this. Okay, let's see. Let's read the world file. So if we can read the world file, maybe it'll give us a bit of information, but I know it has nothing to do with the world file. The world file is no big deal. Yeah, that's no big deal. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording until I figure this out, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I remembered it was actually very easy. Okay, so because, and it did actually have to do with the world file. Okay, because the file does not, because we didn't tell the LAStools to assign the coordinate system for the target, it did not write the coordinate system. So, and so when I loaded it, I don't know why it just wouldn't show up, even though when I clicked zoom to layer, it was clearly right there. But here's the deal with the LAStools and why it doesn't work good unless you purchase it, is you get these diagonal lines through the code or through the file. And they are like, let's do a quick ID on them. They are 0 value. So that's not good for this. So they have 0 value. And as you can see that some of the stuff is missing because like there's certain things in LiDAR data that's missing. So you might need to do like an elevation patch if you have a big piece of data that's missing. You should maybe be able, there might be a way to fill that data if you look into the LAStools, there's probably a way to fill no data. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. But in order to get those vertical lines out, you'll definitely have to purchase it and the hillshade. Let's take a quick look at the hillshade, and you can see that it's just beautiful data. You know, except for those vertical lines, it's just perfect, excellent data. Anyway, so that's kind of it. Let's see if, no, we finished the elevation data. And then of course, if you wanted to use the DEM to do your Flow2D interpolation, if it was the full LiDAR without these lines in it, you would just use this guy right here and it would do it fine. And then if you wanted to make sure that the next time you loaded this, it loaded correctly, you could assign a coordinate reference system to it, which looks like it kind of already did. It may have already assigned it, but you can also export it. If ever you're having a problem with elevation TIFF, the simplest thing to do is just save as, rename it, QGIS, elevation, raster, and let's see what we can do here is, that's fine, nothing there, nothing going on there. Oh, and then just make sure that you assign this to the correct value and just click OK. And that will typically fix most problems that you'll have with the elevation raster. Like say your elevation raster came from Autodesk or AutoCAD and it just wasn't working in QGIS, just save it with the QGIS save and it'll pop it right back in, or it'll get it going for you. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So I will stop the recording and post this onto YouTube.